So imagine trying to troubleshoot a highly complex, crashing server architecture for your IT
Oh
business.
man, yeah, that's a nightmare scenario.
Right. But your secret weapon for maintaining the cognitive endurance to do that isn't, a massive cup of coffee.
Which is what I would definitely reach for it.
Exactly. Or like some new productivity hack. It's actually the fact that you ride a bicycle up to 372 miles a week.
That is just a staggering amount of
It
miles.
really is. Anyway, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring a really fascinating intersection for you.
Right.
We're looking at the exact space where unyielding human endurance meets incredibly elegant mechanical engineering.
It's a great topic.
We have a deeply personal, meticulously detailed essay and transcript from a creator who is documenting their fitness journey. But alongside that, we have their deep dive research into some seriously cutting-edge bicycle technology.
Down to the visual cover art, actually, of their ideal, perfectly engineered machine.
Yes, that priority bicycle cover art, which we'll get into. And our mission today is really to figure out how taking an engineer's mindset to the physical tools you use can systematically remove friction from your life.
Right, because removing that friction helps you achieve these massive, seemingly unrelated goals.
Exactly. Because if you really think about it, the human body is a lot like a high-end musical instrument. It requires, constant tuning and strict
Well,
maintenance.
absolutely.
But if you keep it in perfect working order, it becomes the exact tool you need to play whatever music you're dreaming of. Which, in the case of our source author, literally includes the goal of becoming a saxophone virtuoso.
Well, what's fascinating here is that on the surface, you might look at our sources today and assume we are just doing like a gear review.
Yeah, right. Like we're just talking about bike parts.
Exactly. But the bicycle in this context is just the vehicle, both literally and metaphorically. I mean, the source material is essentially blueprint for optimizing human potential.
I love that framing.
Right. It's looking at the physics of how we move, identifying the annoying daily points of mechanical friction that usually cause us to quit our habits, and systematically engineering them out of existence.
Because when you remove that friction, you free up a massive amount of mental energy.
You really do.
And to really grasp why the author goes to such extreme lengths to find this frictionless technology, we have to understand the underlying motivation.
Right, the why.
Yeah. The author isn't just trying to lose a few pounds or get out of the house on weekends. They have a strict, non-negotiable operational goal.
And it's an intense one.
Very. They are trying to regain the elite level of physical fitness they possessed decades ago when they were serving in the United States Navy.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're doing this to fuel two very distinct ambitions, becoming a saxophone virtuoso, as I mentioned, and running a highly successful small IT business.
They explicitly view their physical body as the instrument required to execute those dreams.
Which is such a profound way to reframe physical health.
It really is. I mean, in our culture, we tend to categorize fitness either as a reactive medical concern or, a purely aesthetic vanity project.
Exactly, like hitting the gym just to look good at the beach.
Right. But to view cardiovascular health
Yeah.
as a strict operational requirement for running an IT business, that shifts the entire paradigm.
Completely.
The author recognizes a core biological truth here. Cognitive endurance and physical endurance are practically indistinguishable at the neurological level.
Wait, really? Like they're the same pathways?
Yeah, you really cannot untangle the mental stamina required to troubleshoot complex network architecture from the physical stamina required to push your heart rate up a hill.
Oh, wow, that makes so much sense.
When you force your body to keep pedaling through physical resistance, you're actively training your brain to ignore the signal to quit.
Right.
That is the exact same neural pathway you need when you have to sit down and practice complex scales on the saxophone for hours.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if we are talking about building lifelong stamina, the author points to a specific inspiration in our sources that completely redefines what the human body is capable of.
Yes, the 90-year-old cyclist.
Benjamin Piovesan.
His case study is central to the author's entire philosophy.
And the details of his routine are just staggering. So, Benjamin was born in a small northern Italian village called Merlingo way back on November 16th, 1933.
Incredible.
And the reality is that most people his age are entirely sedentary. But Benjamin rides between 400 and 600 kilometers a week.
That's what, over 200 miles?
Yeah, it translates to roughly 248 to 372 miles. every single week.
At 90 years old.
At 90. And the detail that really caught my attention is that he didn't even start cycling until he was nearing retirement age.
See, that's the wild part to me.
Right. His son, Patrick, who is a competitive cyclist, encouraged him to take it up. And there's this beautifully shot documentary about him in the sources, filmed by his grandson, Florent Pio-Vasson.
Yeah, I watched that. It's stunning.
It proves that cycling isn't just a young person's game, because the mechanics of cycling involve smooth, continuous rotation. There's incredibly little wear and tear on your joints compared to, like, high-impact sports like running.
Precisely. It is a biological investment that actually compounds over time.
Yeah.
And the author draws a very direct lesson from Benjamin's documentary, treating daily exercise as a non-negotiable meditation.
Right. It's just something you do.
Exactly. Benjamin doesn't rely on motivation, he relies on momentum. And that kind of momentum is what the author wants to harness for their own life and business.
But there's a massive gap between admiring a 90-year-old cyclist and actually becoming one.
Oh, a huge gap.
I mean, the intention is there for millions of people. They buy a bike, they ride it for a week, and then it just sits in the garage gathering dust.
Yep, the classic coat rack.
Exactly. But the author correctly identifies exactly what kills that momentum, mechanical friction.
Right.
So currently, the author is riding a relatively inexpensive Genesis road bike from Walmart. And they aren't elitist about it at all.
Not at all.
They've customized it with LED lights on the front and back, turn signals, mirrors, and they've already experienced massive health benefits from it.
Like weight loss, lower blood pressure, generally just feeling better.
Yeah, the hardware of the bike itself is fine, but then they hit a major flow breaker. 3 flat tires in just a few months.
Oh, the worst.
It is. Riding a bike with fragile tires and a high-maintenance chain is like trying to run a high-performance computer on a dropping Wi-Fi signal.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. The machine has the processing power, but the unstable connection keeps breaking your flow.
That analogy hits exactly on the physics of traditional bicycles. I mean, standard pneumatic tires, meaning tires filled with pressurized air and traditional metal chains, they are just engineering bottlenecks.
How so?
Well, a metal chain is made of over 100 individual links, right? Each with tiny pins and rollers.
Right, yeah.
That is hundreds of metal-on-metal friction points. It requires constant lubrication, which inevitably attracts dirt and sand.
Oh, so it just grinds itself down.
Exactly. That grit grinds against the gears, the chain stretches over time under tension, and eventually it rusts or snaps.
That sounds like a terrible system.
It is. And pneumatic tires are similarly flawed by design. You have a delicate, air-filled inner tube protected by this really thin membrane of rubber.
Which is just asking for trouble.
Seriously. Whether it's a piece of sharp gravel, a shard of glass, or a stray nail, if you ride on a pocket of air, the mathematical probability of a puncture is 100%. It's really just a matter of when.
And the author saw this exact mechanical failure playing out on a macro scale in their research.
Right, the YouTube series.
Yeah, they started watching a 56-video YouTube series called The Apollo Mission. It's produced by a channel called BBB Adventures.
Yeah, the husband and wife duo.
That's the one. They were biking across the entire United States on these highly regarded gravel bikes called the Priority Apollo.
Which are supposed to be great bikes.
They are. But as the author watched this epic cross-country journey, a glaring pattern emerged. The couple was constantly making emergency stops to patch inner tubes.
I remember reading that, yeah.
They were frequently down to their last spare 2 in the middle of absolutely nowhere. It perfectly validated the author's localized problem. The traditional pneumatic tire is a system designed to fail.
And this is where the author's engineering mindset becomes incredibly useful.
Because they refuse to accept it.
Exactly. An engineer looks at a recurring point of failure, like a flat tire or a rusted chain, and they just refuse to accept it as the cost of doing business.
Right. They don't just buy more spare tubes.
No, they look for a systemic solution. The goal is to remove the maintenance friction entirely so that the machine serves the human rather than the human constantly servicing the machine.
I love that.
And that systematic search for a frictionless ride led the author to 2 genuinely revolutionary technological discoveries.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the solutions they found aren't just like incremental upgrades. They fundamentally redesign how the kinetic energy of a bicycle works.
It's totally different tech.
Let's look at the drivetrain first. The Gates Carbon Drive. This is a system heavily utilized by Priority bicycles, that manufacturer based in New York.
Right.
Instead of that greasy, noisy metal chain we were just talking about, the Gates system uses a continuous single-piece belt.
And the material science behind that belt is what makes it revolutionary. It's reinforced with carbon fiber tensile cords.
Wow.
Yeah. And because carbon fiber has immense structural integrity, the belt doesn't stretch under the torque of pedaling the way metal links do.
So no power loss.
None. Furthermore, because there is no metal-on-metal friction, it requires absolutely zero lubrication.
Wait, really? No oil at all?
You don't oil it, you don't grease it, and because of that, it doesn't attract the abrasive dirt that degrades traditional drivetrains.
It's amazing.
Is virtually silent, lasts roughly 3 times longer than a standard chain, and is practically maintenance-free.
So that solves the propulsion friction, but it doesn't solve the fact that you're still rolling on a fragile bubble of air.
Right, the flat tire issue.
Exactly. And that leads us to the second major discovery, Tannus Airless tires. When I first read this part of the source material, I had to double-check the physics.
They're wild.
These tires are made from a patented, highly durable rubber compound, but they are a completely solid mass.
Which is hard to even picture.
Right. There is no inner tube. There is no pressurized air inside. Punctures are literally impossible.
Yeah.
The author notes that if you run over a nail, you just pull the nail out of the solid rubber and keep riding without losing a second of momentum.
That's the dream.
It is. We actually have the podcast cover image provided in our sources, and it is a perfect visual representation of this tech. It shows a sleek, black Priority bicycle parked on a paved path against a backdrop of green trees.
It looks fantastic.
It does. You can clearly see the carbon belt drive, a sturdy rear rack, sleek fenders, and the tires themselves have Tannus Airless printed right on the sidewalls in stark white lettering. It looks like an unstoppable machine.
It really does.
But I have to push back here.
Okay, let's hear it.
If solid airless tires are this indestructible, and they completely eliminate the #1 reason people stop riding bikes, why aren't they standard on every single bike sold today?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you've touched on the classic dilemma of systems engineering.
The integration.
Exactly. Brilliant standalone technologies do not automatically integrate into existing systems.
Oh, I see.
Think about the physics of an air-filled tire. When you pump air into an inner tube, the pressure pushes outward equally in all directions, right?
Right, yeah.
It forces the rubber bead of the tire to lock perfectly into the hook of the metal rim. The air pressure makes the tire highly forgiving and adaptable to slight variations in wheel size.
Oh, okay.
A solid mass of engineered rubber doesn't have that internal pressure. It cannot adapt.
So it has to be a perfect fit.
Exactly. Therefore, a solid tire has to match the internal width and diameter of the metal rim with absolute mathematical precision down to the millimeter. If it doesn't fit perfectly, it will roll right off the rim the moment you take a sharp turn. And this exact volumetric constraint created a massive integration roadblock for our author.
Right, because standalone tech is useless if you can't put it together. So the author originally wanted the Priority Apollo, the exact same versatile gravel bike they watched in the BBB Adventures YouTube series.
Makes sense. It's a great bike.
But when they checked the specifications on the Tannus website, they hit a wall. Tannus simply does not manufacture a solid tire wide enough to fit the stock wheel that comes on the Priority Apollo.
Now, in the traditional cycling world, this wouldn't be a deal breaker.
Why not?
Because if your tire doesn't fit your rim, you just buy a narrower rim, lace it up to your hub, and swap out the wheel.
Easy enough.
But the Apollo isn't a traditional bike. The rear wheel of the Apollo houses a piece of technology called an Alpine 11.
Ah, yes. This is the integrated internal gear hub. And I actually looked into how these function because it completely changes the map of swapping a wheel. On a normal bike, you shift gears by physically derailing the chain and forcing it to jump up and down a cassette of different sized metal cogs attached to the wheel.
Right, standard derail.
But a carbon belt can't bend sideways to jump between cogs. It has to run in a perfectly straight line.
Yeah, it has zero lateral flex.
So all the gearing has to happen internally. The Alpine 11 is essentially a miniature transmission, fully sealed in an oil bath, packed into a metal shell the size of an apple at the center of the rear wheel.
It's an incredible piece of engineering. It uses complex planetary gears inside the hub to change the mechanical advantage while the exterior belt cog stays in one place.
That's so cool.
But because that $500 transmission is the literal center of the wheel, you cannot just quickly swap the rim.
Oh, because it's all connected.
Right. Wheel lacing is structural engineering. A specialized bike mechanic would have to unlace dozens of high-tension metal spokes from the Alpine 11 hub, calculate the precise, millimeter-specific spoke lengths required for a brand new rim, and completely rebuild a custom wheel by hand.
Which completely violates the author's core operating principle.
Exactly.
They explicitly state in the source, "I like simple, elegant solutions," and that solution was simply too much work.
Yeah, but it's not simple at all.
No. The entire point of this journey was to remove maintenance friction. If you have to start your journey by commissioning a highly complex, expensive custom wheel build just to get your tires to fit, you have already defeated the purpose.
You've traded daily maintenance friction for massive upfront integration friction.
And this is where the author proves that a true engineering mindset isn't just about stubbornness, right? It's about adaptability.
Absolutely. Instead of forcing a bad integration, they sought more data.
What did they do?
They simply picked up the phone. They called Priority's New York office, who then connected them with a local Priority partner bike shop located just 20 miles away.
Oh, that's lucky.
Very. And that conversation revealed the elegant solution they were looking for. Tannus does make an airless tire that perfectly fits the factory rims of a completely different model, the Priority 600.
Ah, okay. The Priority 600 has a slightly different frame geometry and uses a different internal gearbox. But crucially, its stock wheel dimensions are the exact mathematical match required to seat the solid Tannus tires securely.
A perfect fit.
And the local bike shop confirmed they could easily install the solid tires and handle the minimal routine maintenance the system would require.
Which is huge.
And the author's confidence in this pivot was entirely solidified by finding another YouTube creator, Ryan Van Duzer.
Oh, I've seen his stuff.
Van Duzer produces these incredibly positive, high-energy videos detailing his own extensive, rugged adventures, specifically on the Priority 600. Seeing the bike perform flawlessly in the real world proved the integration worked.
It perfectly closed the loop on their research. I mean, they identified the goal, found the friction, researched the standalone technologies, navigated the integration failure, and finally arrived at the perfectly engineered system.
So what does this all mean? We reached this climactic point where the author has mapped out the ultimate frictionless high-tech machine. They know exactly what to buy to support their mental and physical stamina.
Right.
But they don't buy it immediately.
No, they don't.
They state that for the next several months, they are going to slowly save up the money for the Priority 600. And in the meantime, they are going to keep enthusiastically riding their cheap, high-friction Walmart Genesis bike every single day. I find that contradiction absolutely fascinating.
It's actually the most important takeaway from the entire source text, in my opinion.
Really? Why is that?
It reveals a profound level of self-awareness. Very often, when people discover the quote-unquote perfect gear, they use the lack of that gear as an excuse to stop putting in the work.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that.
We all are. They tell themselves, I can't start cycling seriously until I have my airless tires, or I can't practice my scales until I buy a professional-grade saxophone.
Right.
But the author refuses to fall into that trap. The daily discipline of riding, the cardiovascular conditioning required to reach that elite Navy-level fitness, it continues regardless of the technology they currently own.
That's such a great mindset.
The mental discipline is the foundation. The high-tech gear is just the eventual accelerant. The inexpensive bike serves the purpose of building the neural pathways today, while their engineering mindset is systematically organizing a frictionless reality for tomorrow.
It is a brilliant separation of the goal from the tool, while still acknowledging how much the right tool can protect your momentum.
Exactly.
We've traced this incredible arc from the enduring, relentless mindset of Benjamin Piovesan, a 90-year-old cyclist casually riding across Italy, all the way down to the molecular material science of carbon belts and solid rubber tires.
It's been quite a journey.
For you listening right now, take a look at your own daily routines. Look for the flat tires. What are the small, repetitive points of mechanical or administrative friction that are quietly bleeding your momentum?
The things that just slow you down.
Yeah, what is slowing you down from reaching your own big goals, whether that's launching a complex IT business, learning a demanding instrument, or just getting your cardiovascular health back on track?
This raises an important question, though. We are looking at this strictly on an individual level.
Okay.
But if we are now successfully engineering standalone machines that require practically zero maintenance bicycles, designed to let the human body keep moving smoothly into our 90s, without the friction of rust or the inevitability of punctures, how might this frictionless philosophy translate to the broader world around us?
That's interesting.
If our personal transport is beginning to outlast the durability of our civic infrastructure, Perhaps our cities themselves are the next things that need an airless tire redesign.
Wow, yeah.
Imagine what a community looks like when the urban planning is engineered from the ground up to support a new, massive demographic of hypermobile, fiercely independent nonagenarians who simply refuse to stop moving.
That is an incredible image to leave on. If we build the environment to support the stamina, the limits of human endurance stretch entirely out of sight.
They really do.
It brings us right back to the core premise. Your body is the instrument, the daily discipline is the tuning. And it seems like we finally have the technology to keep the stage perfectly set, free of friction, for whatever music you want to play.
Absolutely.
Keep tuning that instrument and keep actively engineering the friction out of your path. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.